Welcome to the Jeff Taylor Guitar Podcast. I'll play a little riff for you. I'm working on an arrangement for a gig next month. See if you can spot it. Any guesses? It's going to be for a wedding next month, and it is Taylor Swift's Love Story. So for When the Bride Walks, it should be a pretty nice piece. I still need to finish the arrangement of it. And speaking of gigs, I would like to do a podcast on how I booked my very first gig and why it almost didn't happen. So in this episode, I want to take you back to the very beginning, to when I booked my first ever performance. And I'll be honest, it was not glamorous. It definitely was not paid, and I was absolutely terrified. Before I get to the actual booking of the gig, I do want to do a little bit of a backdrop because I think it's kind of important because you can kind of see the evolution of how things happen. And so back in college, I was a volleyball player and had that passion of playing the guitar, and I wanted to get into the music program. But I was pretty limited on my skill and my experience. Sorry about the boom, about my knee. I was pretty limited about my experience and on the guitar. I was still learning. And the school that I was playing volleyball at was a pretty prestigious music school, but I was kind of ignorant and didn't realize how deep I was in. I was thinking, I'm good enough. I can make into the program or get into the program. And so in order to get into the program, you had to audition. And so you had to prepare a piece, and you had to get the piece polished up enough to where you would actually perform it in front of the faculty, and they would be the ones who decided whether or not you got into the program. And I tried this so many different times. I think it was 3 or 4 different semesters I had to try and never got in. I was always a ball of nerves, sweaty, could not remember. I would forget the music. I was shaky. At one point, one of the teachers said, you know what, this just isn't for you and you should probably consider doing something else. And so that was a huge confidence boost for me. I ended up having to change my major to psychology in order to stay eligible to be on the volleyball team. So that's kind of the baggage I had to start with at the beginning of this. And this kind of moment, especially when someone that you look up to, like a faculty member, tells you you should just quit, that kind of sticks with you, and it becomes a voice in the back of your head every time you perform. Of course, I still continue to do so because it was still a passion of mine, and I just, realized I wasn't the best at it, but I could get better. So the first real gig before the actual first paid gig came when one of my volleyball teammates, this is after college, but he was my teammate during college, he asked me to play at his wedding ceremony. And of course, I was completely honored, thinking this is amazing. Someone actually wants me to play, and also completely terrified. And so the wedding date was set. They told me the pieces of music that they wanted me to play, and time just started ticking, and the date got closer, and I procrastinated, and I overthought things, and I would start to play something, and then I would second guess things, and it got to the point where I was basically just cramming at the last minute. And so the experience was terrible. I learned the pieces, or at least I thought I learned them, but I spent as much time as I thought I needed to get it done. And so they had a rehearsal, and I was unaware that they were having this rehearsal until like maybe an hour before, and I was like a 3-hour drive away. So they wanted me to be there for obvious reasons. They wanted me to be able to know what was going on. And since, it wasn't a paid gig or anything, I was just doing something nice for my roommate. It's kind of important that I know what the heck is going on. So I'm driving through LA, traffic, stressing out because they're waiting on me before they can start the rehearsal. And I was, of course, late. And so not a great first impression. And so I'm thinking I'm just going to show up there and we're going to kind of walk through things. But no, they wanted me to actually start playing and, play the songs that they wanted for the rehearsal. And I didn't have my guitar, but luckily at the venue, there was a guitar there. So they gave it to me. And I just remember the very first thing, the very first piece, I played the complete wrong chord because the guitar was different and I wasn't used to the setup on it. And so it sounded absolutely terrible. And I kind of, one of the other roommates of mine, you could see he was laughing, and I could see the groom and the bride thinks to themselves, like, oh shoot, what have we done with this guy? And so that was a kind of a terrible experience, but the actual wedding went pretty well, at least well enough. I thought I always think I could play better, but I did a good job. They were happy. And so a bonus story is later, another roommate later on asked me to play for his wedding. And so this is one of those things where it's like, oh, it must not have been that bad, because this person was at the wedding and now they're asking me to perform at their wedding. And so I flew across the country, I bought gear, I paid for a hotel, all to play for free. Why? Well, because someone actually wanted my music at their wedding, and it was such an honor, and it meant everything to me. And so it gives you these little steps of confidence that kind of keep you going. Okay, on to the actual first paid gig. My mom had a coworker who was having a backyard get together because she lived in a historic district. And so every year they show all their homes off in this community, and she wanted some live music. My mom referred me to her friends to say, oh, well, my son plays some guitar. So this was a free gig, but I did pretty well there, even though I did not have enough solo material. I had to improvise with some backing tracks that I had made. This neighbor, or this coworker of my mom's, invited me to perform at this yacht club. And this is in Dana Point in Southern California, kind of a ritzy place. So I dressed up nicely in a suit, and it was going to be for $100. It was insane because I showed up there looking good, made sure I was on time, wanted to be super professional, because this is something I can start seeing like, oh, if I look a certain way, then people will be okay with paying me that. Because if you set yourself up and look a certain way, then people will not have any problem. It kind of gives you that credibility. And so it went pretty well. People mostly just mingled and chatted, and I had some nice ambience, still playing to my backing tracks. Never had enough music, but I was able to fill things and improvise, and that went well. And I got paid $100 and then tipped another $100. And so I left there with this whole new belief that I can really do this. Even though all the voice in my head about the teacher saying I should not be doing this, he was not correct on that. I was doing it, and I'm getting paid. That voice kind of is always there, but you can still do things. You can still perform while that's still there. You can still perform anyway. My reflection and takeaway is that you don't start off with this credibility. You build it. And so at first, you'll probably end up playing for free for some friends and some families, and you're going to be unsure of yourself, and you're going to overthink everything, and that sticks with you, but you know how to override that. But every performance you get better, and you get a little bit more brave and more confident. And then even today, I still do feel some anxiety before weddings, but it never fully goes away. But you learn to prepare, and you learn to show up, and you learn to do your best. If you're trying to book your first gig, my advice would be just to say yes to opportunities. And even if they scare you, that's a good sign. Get your name out there, let people know that you play. You'll start to slowly build on things, and you'll get some momentum. And so if you've done something, or if you've been through something similar, let me know, because, I'd love to hear your story, and maybe we can build a nice little community. That's it. Have a good day.